Very happy new year, everyone. We are in 2022, and I am super excited because my first guest is none other than Radha Basu. She's the CEO of iMerit and the founder, a global AI data solutions company delivering high quality data that powers machine learning and artificial intelligence applications for Fortune 500 companies. She is a leader, tech entrepreneur, and a pioneer in the Indian software business. Radha has received many honors, including the Global Thinkers Forum Award, UN Women ITU Gender Equality Mainstreaming Technology Award, Silicon Valley Business Journal Women of Influencer Award, Top 25 Women of the Web, and CEO of the Year. So there are many feathers to her hat, and I can't wait to interview and learn about her journey. Today we will be discussing about her journey leveraging human intelligence to advance AI, scaling the data pipeline for faster deployment, ML DataOps, iMerit, and much more. And I know for a fact in 2021 they did a huge summit, so we'll be talking about that as well, and also would be wanting to know more about the 2022 trends in what's coming in the future in the world of AI and machine learning. So without any further ado, let's have Radha here. Hey Radha, welcome to the Ravit Show.
Hi Ravit, great to be on the show.
It's such a pleasure.
I look forward to it.
It's such a pleasure because we've been like obviously deciding over the date since so long, but finally we get here, and it's my first show in the year 2022. So super excited and wanting to learn more about your journey. So, but obviously to start with, I would love to know more about you, and I'm sure the audience would love to know more about you. So can you introduce yourself?
Well, Happy New Year to start with, and hope 2022 is a year that brings us, good health and happiness and togetherness. I think that would be the best thing to have, right? To be able to actually see each other. Yeah, so I'm Rama Swami Basu, and I'm an engineer from the southern part of India originally, and have been in the corporate technology world at Hewlett Packard 20 years, and then started a software company, took it public on NASDAQ, and then from there actually came into looking at how can we really leapfrog and have young people work in the AI world, in the digital technologies world, and especially young women. And what would be the next wave or the next revolution as the IT revolution has happened in India? And during my days in the corporate world, I actually had an amazing opportunity to start Hewlett Packard in India at a time when nobody believed IT was being done here. This was in the late 1980s. So you can see how things have changed so much. It's a multi-hundred billion, $300 billion business. And now the next wave, AI. So I'm really looking forward to have seen some of your shows, and, it's really interesting to be on.
Thanks, Radha. That's I feel very honored coming that from you, and definitely would love to hear your thoughts, how, the transition has been from 1980s to till date, because you have seen the things actually moving towards the technology moving towards the advancement. So I would love to know your thoughts on the year, maybe 2022, which areas in machine learning and AI will be dominating.
Yeah, that is, I think, a really important question. So we've been in this AI technology solutions for about 6 years now. We started as a digital solutions company and then really got into AI. And so you could ask the question, well, where is AI? Because people have talked about AI and technologies for donkey's years, I think. A lot of it has gone in. But there is a significant change happening. And we're going to talk about 2022 being the year of ML, AI, machine learning ops. and
Wow.
data ops in particular. Why is that? And can you imagine after all these years to be able to talk about that? So, what is ML ops? It's a combination, it's like an equation. I think of everything as an equation, so please bear with me. It's ML ops equals ML model ops plus ML data ops. That's
Right.
what brings it together. So, what we've been working on these years has been to train those models with a lot of data and creating the models, those algorithms that go into products that AI born companies like in autonomous vehicles and stuff like that, where they incorporate them in LiDAR. And we'll talk about all of that LiDAR, radar, etc. That's
Right.
kind of it's been our life for the last few years. And now those models are starting to get into deployment. And it's going into the whole ML ecosystem is very important for end-to-end production success. And no man is an island, as John Donne said. No model is an island. The promise of AI doesn't exist in model in isolation, but the sharing of data to create opportunities. And that shared responsibility to make the ML successful at scale and realize its potential is really important. And we are in the first steps, and I call them, some AI ML technology companies may not agree, but I say that's in the first steps, the baby steps of taking AI into production. What does that mean? It means that we have to really look at the ops side, and we have to get into that other side of the equation, right? ML ops equals ML model ops plus ML data ops. And we are getting into the model centric to the data centric. And that is why ML data ops, I really see that AI going into production is the first steps towards getting there. So that's why I think 2022 is the year of ML data ops.
I think it is something like this is the best explanation on ML model ops, data ops, and ML ops coming together in, why it will actually be ruling in 2022 and maybe in the years coming after that as well. This is amazing, Radha. Thanks for this amazing explanation. It does clarify a lot of things for me, and I'm sure once this goes on air, people will love the explanation. So obviously, since we talk about these, the question that arises is, what will be the role of humans or experts in the loop? How will they actually look at these things? Because at this moment, where I stand, I hear a lot about ML ops. I hear a lot about ML data ops, about model ops. But how do these connect? And where do humans stand in this loop?
Wow, we're going right into it, Ravit, which is what I like. So let me start by saying that I want to give you a little bit of background before I answer that question directly.
Yeah.
At iMerit, I feel we're very grateful to have had ringside seats to our clients, different stages from startups to massive AV companies. And why did we have a ringside seat? Because we have been training those models and training the algorithms. So over time, as humans, we're gaining learnings time and again from them, deep insight into how to make this work at scale, whether it's autonomous mobility or the different areas. Now, when you start to bring AI to the physical world, you're actually, so let's take an example like autonomous vehicles. And I'm just using that because that's what you hear about the most now. It's where we have a lot of experience as well. And I wanted to share things with you that I'm not just reading somewhere, but that's really our experience.
Exactly.
So it is, so think of these vehicles. And so you have LiDAR. I was actually in one of these vehicles, right? So it was ones we have trained. So it was quite interesting being in the vehicle. You have the LiDAR, you have the 3D LiDAR, you have 6 radars, near side, far side, 10 2D cameras, and this autonomous vehicle. I call this the ground robot because there are ground robots, aerial robots, and home robots, right? So if you think of robots as a whole. So this ground robot is moving. And we think we have trained it with all the models, the technologies, and it's going to work beautifully well. And then comes up the first thing that it sees could be a tree hiding half the stop sign, could be as simple as that. And I'll share some really interesting examples with you about what are the kinds of things that it comes across. So then you're immediately saying, how am I going to solve those? We think of them as just edge cases, but they could be 50%, these things that it hasn't seen in the real, in its model, when you're bringing AI to the physical world. And that is what data as the center of the operations become. It's not the data you're using to train the algorithms. It is the data that is coming at this ground robot with LiDAR and radar and 2D cameras, and it's taking all of that in and really reacting to it. And that is where it is no longer, and this is I would say, a significant step in the last year, and people have started to realize as the deployment, as the fleet operations or getting into the field operations is happening. And that is, it is no longer technology and humans in the loop of technology. It is a fusion, and I will be careful not to use the meta word, but which I just did. But it's the fusion of the robot with the human intelligence. And it's an infinite loop that goes like this because data is coming at it. And I could even see that just sitting in the vehicle. I was in there for about an hour and a half. And I was looking at the thinking, oh my gosh, did we label this properly? This is an edge case we've never come across. How did we map this? A mapping of Washington, D.C. versus, of Munich versus, well, I don't know about India, but, different cities is very, very different. And it is in that the humans, the intelligent humans, fusion of intelligent humans and intelligent robots. That's the word you would hear is fusion, as against in the loop. So that's what's happening.
Oh, yes, definitely. And this is coming from experience. This is coming directly from you, where you've done that, built that, and you know how things kind of, move in. So thanks for sharing this experience. I'm sure it will benefit a lot. And rather, obviously, when we talk about humans again, the question that arises for me, at least, is how do you see humans benefiting from AI in the coming years? Because that's like the most basic thing I would love to know as an audience, that, okay, AI is, getting there. But as a human, how can we benefit? Or are we already benefiting and these are hidden benefits which we can't see?
I think that is the most important question. Frankly, for me, it is. Because we can have the technologies, but the fusion of this tech and the talent and the experts in the loop, what are we going to use it for? What is already happening? So for me, the utilization comes, we work clearly, the one is autonomous mobility. And I'm not just talking about autonomous vehicles. Think about the utilization of an AV for seniors going from one place to the other, AVs within senior complexes, AVs being used so that, right now, if you look at in many, many different ways, look at the way shared mobility has transformed everybody being able to get anywhere. And
Right.
if you put in autonomous technologies into it for safety, for bringing accidents down, drone delivery for medicine into areas, being able to get into flood areas or disaster areas, geospatial technology. For
Right.
me, AI in precision agriculture, which can change the way food scarcity and access and availability happens.
Right.
Medical AI, which is an area that we focus in a lot, fintech. So, even in things like being able to look at social media exchange between teams and predicting suicides, as I said, precision agriculture is a really important aspect of it to be able to get the best yield, to be able to know when to water it properly, to look at different crops and look at when certain crops can come in, even with implements.
Wow.
Another one is either, and this might seem far fetched, but it's not, using surgical robots for and training them for knee surgery, for accuracies, for being able to do pediatric surgeries, being able to read radiology, images, so
Hmm.
people in distant areas, in remote areas, can get the benefits of the medical imaging technologies that we're so used to. I can go on, but
Yeah.
it is that, for me, excites me the most. And well, it's more than excitement. That is what I want to see happen. Otherwise, AI is going to be another technology, and we're going to talk about, 10 years from now, bridge the AI divide, like we said, bridge the
Oh my.
digital divide. But the difference with a mobile device, it has become ubiquitous. And I would like to have AI become ubiquitous in its applications
Hmm.
without and designing in that there is no AI divide.
Right. And this is amazing information, rather, because I see you've covered a ground where agriculture comes in, the medical, the healthcare comes in, and you also spoke about how how we have at least focused on AI in the healthcare. And after, I'm sure, once we after March 2020, we've seen pandemic hit, and AI has grown more than ever. So do you have any places where you have seen AI has been implemented, or it has actually reached a place where it has helped the pandemic in any way? Or maybe in the next few years we'll be ready for such pandemics, and AI will actually make the difference for us.
I think that the epidemiology and the spread of the pandemic, AI is really good when
Mm.
there is a lot of structured data. Our What we as humans do to train the models is basically taking a lot of unstructured data in
Right.
a very simplistic way. This is not for your data engineers and the young crowd that you attract, but at a very simple level, because every human being has to understand what is AI, what is this artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
I'm the intelligent person. It's taking a lot of unstructured data, like you would find during the pandemic. Why is it we can't predict that this is going to be the spread? Because the data is so unstructured. It's going in one way, it's going in a different way, it's nonlinear, right? Being
Right.
able to take down structured data and create models to create the structure and the linearity is how AI can really help. So AI helps in pharma. I mean, I know that AI has
Exactly.
helped in creation of a lot of the vaccines because they've been
Right.
able to do the models around it. So whether it is um, the pandemic, whether it's looking at the actual vaccines themselves or in the
Mm.
epidemiology of the spread of AI, right? We used AI, I'm thinking now at least 5 years ago, when there was in the Mekong Delta, there was all the, I forget exactly what it was called. It was like the bird flu kind of thing, and it spread. It was the SARS virus, and it
Oh
started
yeah.
to spread. And even then, we started to use AI from the epidemiology point of view. Now we're using it for pharma. But all of this, Ravit, is in its early stages. And that is why, coming back to the ML data ops, we can talk about all these technologies as early stages, and it's very exciting to talk about the technology. But I'm a practitioner. For
Right.
me, it works only when this thing is out there, it's actually helping people, it's actually
Exactly.
having an impact. Then to me, something is scaling. I'm a scaling person. So there are others who can be technologically more exciting for you guys, but I'm the person who scales it and makes
Very
things
true.
work. And this is where ML data ops really comes in.
This is amazing, Radha, because that's one of the things which I love to hear from leaders like you, and I love to see how, what type of focus you have. Like, it's more around the side where it should scale, it should be implemented, it should be benefited from humans out there, and not just in the textbook. So it does make a lot of sense. So this is like the good side that we've spoken, Radha. But now I would obviously want to jump to a side which is, uh, I wouldn't say controversial, but people talk a lot around it, and people are open. Even folks from the AI world, AI experts, I've heard a lot about it, and they do mention about a large portion of the projects in AI kind of fail. And why do you think that happens? Rather, would love to know your thoughts on this.
So there are two parts to this, right? One, does it fail in the product development, which is really about the model training and the algorithms and all the
Very
data
important.
that goes into the training of the models. The second one is in the failure of its deployment and the applications and unpacking what it means to be data centric, right? This whole ML data ops. So let me take the product side. A lot of people think, well, let's reduce the amount of data because having too much data to train things is taking too much time and too much product. But if you are to model, think about just cancer cell categorization, right? The amount of data needed, what are you doing? You're taking the intelligence of the humans who have actually been able to look at this cancer cell data and you're training the algorithms. If you don't put enough into it, or if you have bias. So for example, you take all the cancer cells or the radiology recordings just in the US, or
Mhm.
white males, or you just do it for Chinese, Mongolians, or something. You're never going to have. I mean, one of the things they found is that training algorithms for that, for cancer
Right.
cell categorization, and the cancer cells, and the categorization is so different, not the cells themselves.
Mhm.
Categorization is so different when you're dealing with, like, why do they have like a cardiology unit just for South Asians? Why do you have
Right.
the South Asian view of heart disease versus the Midwest in the US view of heart disease? Because the causes, the training, the data is all different. And so you have to train the algorithms to not have bias, to not take a stream. You can say this product only works for this and this particular application,
Right.
or voice recognition, right? ASR and voice recognition. And
Mm.
conversational AI is a big part. But imagine training your algorithms. And this was a very funny story that happened well, I won't name who it is, but one of the senior large company CEOs, lady CEO, was testing the product of their conversational AI, which was just going to be introduced. It was a week before, and found that her voice was not being recognized because it was trained with male voices.
Oh
And
my.
it was as bizarre as that. And so they actually delayed the introduction of that product. This is one of the largest tech companies in the world. They delayed it by about 6 months to be able to
Oh
do
my.
that. So you have to train with all the different diversity. This is why diversity in AI is so important. When you look at our company, and I'll just say this for a moment, we are 54% women. We're 5,000
Wow.
people and 54% women. Yes. Imagine in a technology company. This is one of the things I'm so excited about. So
Exactly.
we bring, you can have fashionistas in New Orleans, you can have them in Metrobus, and oh my God, they can do their fashion AI training in many different ways and bring a lot of ideas. Let me look at the other side, which is the ML ops side. And what is the importance? What do we need to do on that side of things? So I think this is really important to understand. So we have to, in order to deploy, now it comes to good old solid operations,
Exactly.
enterprise grade architecture for an end to end solution. What does that mean? Scale, security, infrastructure, ability to quickly deploy new uh, functionality infrastructure, which your engineers on your show would know, terraforming, CI
Yeah.
CD. But scale, security, and safety are three of the most important, the three S. We call it the three T's and the three S's. Now, let's explain the three T's. Human and technology hybrid to make AI advance. So bringing together the technology, the technique. Most people forget technique and talent, the three T's. Solving edge cases with high quality data, scaling your data pipeline for rapid deployment. These are not your sexy, oh, it's the next LiDAR, what's the next this? But without this, AI will not be successful and will not deploy. And that is, and having a single source of truth in order to be able to, when we are going through the deployment, through all of these different views of where AI is. Those are, that is what I'm unpacking for you, what it means to be ML data ops and data centric.
This is amazing, explanation in terms of, first thing I would congratulate on maintaining and having a fantastic diversity, which is like 54% in iMerit. So it's a huge thing where a technology company having more diversity, balance, and there are more women working in this space. I super proudly support the women in tech, and I think they are doing fantastic work. And for a fact, I have the shows also lined up in a manner where you are my first guest in 2022. Though this is the recording one, so people might watch it later. But and the next one is Sadie will be on the show. She's the
Ah,
founder of Women in Tech. You might know her definitely.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so I love this fact where iMerit does maintains a great diversity, because as important it is in terms of the product specific as well. Like you mentioned about example where a large CEO also messed up with the diversity bit, or maybe not. Obviously it might have not clicked them at that moment, but it is definitely super important. And I love the three T's. I really liked how you've broken down all the pieces, and I'm sure the engineer friends out there will love this conversation and how we've moved in. So moving on, obviously, Radha, I have a lot of questions, since you like a fantastic like you have experiences to share, and would love to know how are you seeing the needs of AI companies changing as they evolve from prototype to production, because that is also one very important aspect for all the AI companies out there. So yeah.
Yeah, so I go back to saying that it's an end to end game now.
Yeah.
When you start to look at, and such an important part of looking at this whole life cycle. So you start to look at, and I'll just give some the words that you're doing labeling to extract structured data from an unstructured medium. You're doing mapping to capture the highly dynamic change of information in the real world. You're mapping the real world to the models that you've been creating. You're validating, ensuring variances in the data or surroundings are correct or not, monitoring, detecting changes that may require human oversight and input. And that is the end-to-end AI data solutions are coming to market. And that is why we have really focused this last year, and particularly this year going forward of the next 3 years, of the end-to-end data solutions. And I think a very important part of this is to recognize that algorithms in the field will come back with a lot of edge cases, which data operations will scramble to resolve before the algorithm is redeployed. So quality data, high quality data is a very important ingredient. And you asked this question about the really important question of the role of humans or experts in the loop. And I said no longer in the loop, it's the fusion. So what does that mean? Skilled people are key to scaling and closing the last mile. Training on nuances and edge cases, edge case technologies, and being able to bring that together. There's also a motivation, and we tend to overlook the importance of the motivation, the cross training, the confidence. We call it, there's another three I have: comprehension, confidence, and communications. The confidence to challenge algorithms and provide insights. I can't tell you how important that is. You say, oh, that's the machine, but it says it's doing that. And we're like, okay. And there will be, and this is one of the things is with young people, our company is very young in age. You won't know that looking at me, Ravit, but our company's average age is 24 and a half. Wow. And these people are confident as heck. They will tell the CTO of one of our client companies, you know, your algorithm or your policies are wrong, and really challenge the algorithm and provide the insight as to why, because they have seen many more annotations and much more labeling and data than anybody else they work at the client they're working for, because we're doing it. So diversity in opinions and backgrounds, these all become what the fusion of the AI in the loop. Now, we have to make sure that this happens in a responsible way. So I want to bring in the statement, and I want to do this with a lot of humility, because it's easy to get carried away by the technology and the intelligent humans. Right. AI should responsibly benefit everyone. And you would hear that in our summit. You hear three things in our summit: responsibly benefiting, edge case. Everybody talked about edge case. This fusion, and the last thing is the responsibility in deployment, the security, the safety, and those three aspects of things: scaling, being secure, and having the safety part of it. So those are the things I would say are really critical as we are building out AI for a variety of applications. One last thing I'd like to say that kind of is in India. You asked about the applications of AI. One of the things that they created in Niti Aayog and working with, they created an AI center outside of in Mumbai, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And this is where I think AI, responsible AI for societal applications, that is going to be what changes our view of the technologies and our view of the benefits. Not just being responsible, but being able to have the precision agriculture, the fintech, the making it ubiquitous, the medical AI, social media, so we can actually help, whether it's with teenagers or people on social media who are expressing themselves, making it so that, like what Zoom's doing to bring people together, or the mobile has done to bring people together.
True.
Commerce no more is a storefront, right? I mean, it's all about virtual front. AI will bring people together through these. And I know that might sound like a pipe dream, but I really wish that that
Yeah.
is where we will head.
I'm sure, this is a very important point, rather, that you mentioned, because I feel like you mentioned AI, responsible AI is something that is very important. And I'm sure a lot of conversations in the summit also happened around it. I did give it a, listen, and I heard a lot around it. And this totally makes sense to me as well, because humans out there who are standing on the line, and they feel that how are we benefiting the most out of AI, or how are we actually being on the line. And we can easily say that yes, AI is helping us to understand social media better, or AI is helping us to understand medical services better. How are things doing there, the fintech world, even the agriculture world. So it does make a lot of sense when you say that. So thanks for that, Radha. But also, since we were talking around, I know you mentioned about scalability and about the quality of data. So what do you think are the best practices for scalable and efficient data pipelines? I would love to hear about those as well.
Yeah, first of all, I think that, um, we talked about applying models and we talked about the data within,
Yeah.
in. And a lot of the scalability is around, truly around solving edge cases. You'll hear this from me. You hear this. You would hear this at the summit as well. In
Yeah.
fact, somebody referred to me. This summit is the edge case CEO, and I said, I will take that as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
That with pride, um, scaling the pipeline.
Yeah.
Um, then not just understanding data labeling, but all the mapping and monitoring.
Right.
So shifting from a batch throughput, think of that,
Yeah.
into a continuous flow and eventually real time. And let me give an example. I wanted to share this example with you because this would be kind of fun for your audience as well. So one of the things that happened, in November, end of October, October 31st, actually, is
Oh.
is something that happens in the US called Halloween. You know what Halloween is,
Yeah.
right? And people all dress
Exactly.
up as things, especially kids and stuff.
True.
So this year, as the autonomous vehicles were on the road and they're all in pilot mode and things,
Exactly.
um, because last year in the pandemic, there wasn't kids weren't able to go out. There was a profusion of kids out there dressed in different ways, and people had put in different cities had put these sticks with just about that height and dressed in that way.
Yeah.
And honest to goodness, that distinguishing between in real life between that stick kid and the real kid who's dressed up, who isn't dressed up that way usually, was one of the edge cases that came out. And this was actually happening almost real time and going into triage and
Mm.
being able to, but you can picture it. I actually saw in multiple cases, and our people did, and our people would be looking at these images and saying, what do we do? What do we do? Because they looked so similar. Are you
Yeah.
looking at a reflection? Are you looking at the person? This is human intelligence that needs to come into the models, and being able to scale to do this and do it in a very secure way. You do not want information that is
Right.
in medical or precision agriculture or even in social media,
Yeah.
privacy, to be able to be shared. I mean, this is so important when we're dealing with patient data and things like
Mm.
that, right? Private. private
Exactly.
data. So that's where the scalability, I'm just telling you, all these images that came in, we could have put 600 people more on in that period of time just to be able to deal with this. But through that, the models got trained.
Yeah.
That's where the intelligent human, when people ask me two things, how can you be a technology company with 50% gender equity, equality?
Yeah.
I say, have you seen the world? It's kind of 50-50, you know? So
True.
why would a tech company be that? And when
Very true.
people say a second question, is technology going to take over, AI going to take over jobs? What will happen? We created 1,500 jobs during the pandemic. Our
Mm.
business grew 80%.
All right.
And why? Because that fusion of the machine intelligence and the human intelligence is what makes AI successful. And in that is the scalability and the security and the safety that are built in. Coming to your, trying to answer your question on
Yeah.
uh, the scalability aspect.
I think it is
Can I?
fantastic,
Yeah.
Radha. Yeah. Yeah,
I'd
please.
like to say one more thing in scalability. So I got kind of carried away with the human side of things. Automation is going to happen, has to happen. You can't be just increasing data and data and data and
True.
everything being done. So I totally believe in the kind of um, I don't know whether it's a type of leadership or just I'm just the person who believes and being I believe that if I don't disrupt myself, somebody else will. So I'll take it to our company. So, or to AI. We have to be the disruptive leader. And as they say in the Singularity University, you cultivate a culture of exponential thinking with the help of the lessons. So, with the help of the edge cases, we cultivate a culture of exponential thinking. And
Right.
I truly believe that technology, we, and this is where, I would appeal to all of this young workforce in India. Each of you can come work in companies like us and
Wow.
create automation, pre processing of data, post processing of data, a variety of different things. There's something called a model zoo. It literally is a zoo of models. And
Wow.
so many of these things can be created. And then you can see the work you've done being applied to the kind of responsible AI and societal applications we talked about. So I want to make sure that technology investment is very clearly brought out, not just in the model and the products, but in the deployment of AI.
Wow. I can truly say iMerit does a lot of scaling, not only in the data space, but also in the space where creation of jobs come in. Like you mentioned, you guys almost created more than 1,500 jobs just in the pandemic and has a growth over 80%, which is phenomenal. So a big congratulations to the iMerit team, to you, Radha. I know for a fact that the team kind of does a lot of work. I've seen so many leaders from iMerit at so many conferences speaking about different topic areas about scalability, data pipelines, edge cases. So it does, it's actually helping the community in many ways, and which makes me super happy. I'm more of a community person, and going out there and seeing iMerit doing such amazing work for the community, for the AI community as well, it makes me so happy. So but also that brings me to an important question, which is about the edge cases. Obviously we have spoken a lot around it, but it does make sense since we are in this space. Like iMerit is in that space where you focus a lot on edge cases. And what kind of edge cases in AI does iMerit work on? And I would love to know, how do you tackle them? Like what like if you have a problem out there, what's the approach to it, and how does iMerit tackle them?
Yeah, I said earlier,
Yeah.
um, edge cases. It's like um, that's edge cases. That's the world we're in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you have things that are clear over time, you better be training your models to be able to do that in an automated way. Otherwise, there's, what's the point in spending so much on AI? So it's all about edge cases, or a lot of it is. Um, let me take a few examples. I will take a couple in autonomous vehicles, electrical poles, and in maybe med AI, or precision agriculture, or an agricultural AI.
Yeah.
So let's take geospatial or drone images.
Interesting.
We've actually seen images where it is so black and white that you don't see the helicopter is a dot. And you literally, I've stood behind one of our team members who is actually annotating it. And sometimes an image might take an hour and a half to annotate. And I keep saying, where is it? Where is it?
Exactly.
And she will point to it, and I can't see it. And I put on my glasses, and I can't see it. And so think of that kind of an edge case when a drone's coming down and doing drone delivery, or you're looking at an AV doing that. Difference between, and we actually did this, I'll give you a couple of AV edge cases.
Yeah.
The difference between smoke, exhaust, cloud, on a cloudy day, there is something like 9 kinds wisps, and having the intelligence to say it's coming from this direction versus that direction, and that just edge cases around the equivalent of a cloudy day, all the different things that make up a cloud. And as I mentioned, everything from everything from smoke to wisps of things to clouds to exhaust or whatever. And it's very much related to the conditions, of the conditions of the road and the conditions of the images. And so the other one is shadows. Another one that we actually worked on was the difference between actual people at a crosswalk, or at a zebra crossing, versus the reflection of the person inside a store with a big glass front end. I actually have been in vehicles where those two looked the same, and you didn't know whether this person was getting ready to get into the zebra crossing, or it was a reflection. And how do you tell the difference? Those are edge cases. It could be as simple as the difference between a shoulder, when a road has no shoulder, and we created an annotation workflow that taught the AV to identify the sides of the road themselves rather than look for a shoulder. And model was taught to always leave a space between itself and the boundaries of the road, regardless of whether the shoulder was there or not. These are all, I would say, more simplistic examples. When you take this into looking at a cotton plant and looking at the buds of the plant at the end and recognizing a weed from a plant, and saying whether this plant has some disease versus a weed, that's an edge case that, interestingly, some of our young people who come from rural areas were actually able to train the models better for one of the largest agricultural companies in the world. These were young people who came from the Sundarbans and were able to train it better than any data scientist you could find. So it all depends on the context. These are all different kinds of edge cases. I think medical edge cases are big. risk analysis and risk models in financial technologies and financial risk models to be able to model that. Listening to cough and actually being able to say, what are some of the medical consequences to the type of cough that's happening? And I happen to know that there is some of that being developed during the pandemic to see, and I don't know what the results are yet, whether the type of cough can indicate breathing. You remember when we went through the second wave, the breathing and labored breathing, you can determine the difference between having something that can affect your lung capacity versus it just being kind of a regular cold and cough. So there are many applications, and all these are edge cases. So for us, edge cases have three pieces to them. There is a technology. We have this iMerit Data Studio that has the edge case engine. That's a technology platform that brings it together, allows us to search on things, etc., as the labeling and the mapping and the validations happening. The second one is, of course, building out with a lot of intelligence the knowledge management and the knowledge base. And the third is being able to scale it in a way and train people using sometimes even AI and ML to skill people to be able to discern between edge cases and changes in policy. Because you can't have everything as edge cases. So you have to convert edge cases into policy changes to train the models. That's where this loop comes in. So those three pieces make up edge case. Long-winded answer, but I thought you wanted some examples.
Yes, exactly. I wanted some examples in the edge cases. I wanted to get into the weeds of what you were actually talking about. Like, obviously, I've heard about edge cases, but not this thorough. So thanks for the explanation, Radha. And definitely, I've actually noted it down, the edge cases, and how you identify it in three various ways, like technology, through intelligence, and through scalability, and obviously involving humans as well. So it does make a lot of sense. But that also brings me to an important question. Since we are towards the end of the show, I would love to know about iMerit and about the future plans, because iMerit is always evolving, always coming up with something new. So would love to know from you what's in the coming years that we can expect from iMerit in the world of data ops, data AI, data model ops in these spaces.
So it was a little broken up, but I think what you asked me was to share iMerit's future plans and what's going to happen over the next, 12 months, 24 months. Is that correct? That's what you were asking me about?
Yeah.
Wow. That's it's a very, it's a question we're working on right now very much. So again, as the AI market moves closer to production and deployment, we see that our work and growth will reflect changing priorities, the teams working to leverage ML across the different industries. Over the next 12 months, we will make significant investments in technology, as I talked about, disrupting ourselves to better enable the AI data solutions across the life cycle. So it's very much going from the annotation, labeling, mapping into monitoring, validation, and actually going into the cycle of deployment, getting the data back, looking at the edge cases, and being able to retrain models. So it's kind of looking at the active learning pieces. That's a technology we are very much looking at, and different kinds of technology. So a lot of significant investment in the technologies. The second one is to be able to provide the solution consulting with our clients based on the intelligence that has been built up. So right from the beginning, we can say, we don't have all the technologies. There are lovely technology companies in the world. this for your solution or your problem, this is the set of things that we bring together that we can bring. Our experts can say this is the best technology, this is the best way we can aggregate the data, the reporting, the analytics, insight, edge cases, and be able to bring in an end-to-end solution. Definitely investing in that solutions consulting. And very much also investing in the company's infrastructure and ability to scale, scaling and security alongside our clients. We have a fantastic chief infosec officer who comes from about 30 years in information security. And I think as we evolve, what will happen is more and more the challenges that come to humans will be continuous emphasis on solving more and more complex challenges in ML data ops. So the complexity is going to increase. So investing in deeper understanding of tools and talent and technique. So technology, talent, and technique that can enable this creation of more complex challenges, not creation, addressing it as data moves from the unstructured to the pre-ML and all the way to production. So those are the three or four areas that we're really investing in.
Wow,
in India,
great.
I will just end by saying this. India is a rich source, as I mentioned, of young and enthusiastic talent.
True.
And we recognize the need for enhancing teams and will continue. We love hiring freshers and professionals, but the freshers, oh my gosh, the enthusiasm, the curious learners, the can-do attitude is amazing. And we've hired young engineers. One was the winner of the Andrew Ng Challenge for Global Challenge for Data Science, young fellow who joined us and is full of life, Debakar Roy, software engineer from Bangalore. But there are many such people. And being able to create those jobs and create them for the gender equality from a different kinds of backgrounds, diversity, and to be able to skill these people to get into providing the best fusion of humans and robots.
Wow, this is amazing. Thanks for all the details, Radha, and definitely iMerit does, as you mentioned, the average age is like 24 and a half. So I can only imagine the energy, the curiosity, the employees and the folks who would want to join iMerit has. And definitely I'm sending a lot of people your way, iMerit's way, in terms of learning and, obviously growing their career at such a place where they'll be identified. There's a lot of investment in the new technology. So you get to obviously learn a lot of things. But that also brings me to a very important question in terms of for our audience, if they are coming from the learner's background, and many of them also want to break into ML ops space or the ML data ops space. So what would you suggest? What are the best places to learn? Does iMerit have resources where they can actually go through and learn a lot around about this?
Ravit, I just lost you for a moment. So if you could, if you could repeat that. It just went a little bit, was really,
No worries. Rather, my question was for our audience, since they are coming from a background where they are super curious to learn more about data ops, ML data ops. So how would you suggest them? Where can they actually learn a lot around this? Like, which are the best places? Does iMerit also have resources, videos where they can tune in and learn more about this space and upskill themselves?
Yeah. So there's some wonderful articles we have put together, and they're not all ours, but there's iMerit content library that beginners can learn from. I tell you, for me, and as long as I've been in this, the summit recordings that are on the website, because these are all thought leaders. There were 32 speakers, and they
Wow.
came from so many industries. We had the VP of AI for cruise automation, the VP of AI for Facebook. We had somebody who headed up CEO of conversational AI,
Wow.
variety of different things, people from e-commerce, the financial area, and the fintech area. You just look at the set of people there. Of course, autonomous vehicles, and two professors. This was a quite an interesting one that you should have your folks go look at, which
Mhm.
is two professors, one from Carnegie Mellon, the other from MIT, who talked about behavior, um,
Wow.
behavioral mobility, and how the behavior of a person and where they're from and the context of it has an impact on the way you train your models
Right.
of could be even an autonomous vehicle, and as I was saying, even in the med AI space. So there are some really interesting articles, and in the recordings that they can go and that they can go look at. And at the end of it, if people want to connect with us on LinkedIn, please, we love to hear from young people who are really curious learners. I love
Exactly.
curious learners because I think that's what makes for the best intelligent humans who can fuse with the robots. And so I think understanding that data is living, breathing,
Yeah.
constantly evolving, and the solutions need to adapt and change. So there is no such thing as this is done. Of course, different products are done. So there's a lot of exciting things to be able to do. So it's all available.
Fantastic. I did go through it, and what I'll be doing is once I put it on air, our recording, I will be sharing the link. And it is, I went through each of those, and I really liked the content there, the summit content, the content library. Thanks for making it actually open source for the community. It does help a lot of folks, and yeah, I myself will be actually going and learning a lot from there. So thank you very much, Radha, for this. And last but not the least, my most important question for the folks who are watching you, if they would love to reach out to you, if they would love to connect, share ideas, which is the best place? I know you mentioned LinkedIn, but is there some other place they can easily connect with you and share ideas?
I think LinkedIn is best
Okay.
because otherwise it's great. And there is an iMerit LinkedIn page. I have my own
Fantastic.
LinkedIn page. We have, and people are curating it and looking at it, and so the responses can be easier.
Yeah.
But connect in any way. Connection is so important in this
Sure.
whole area, and yeah, just connect. And as I said before. Um, the company is a very young company, and connection and the spirit is what makes it all tick. So yes, absolutely, do connect.
Very true, Radha, and thanks for all the information. This was fantastic. I can't wait to obviously collaborate